we're back.
Okay, so Kate Brown bullshit fee. Oregon waterway access permit for non-motorized craft such as kayak, canoe, drift boat, inflatable raft, small rafts, yada yada yada. It's not expensive. It's 1 year permit is $19 or 2 years $32. So again, it's not expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to pay to float the rivers
to just go in the river with anything not anything other than your swim trunks.
Right.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
No, total BS. Total. That's the kind of stuff like a Civil War 2. We need to eliminate that when we
how
remake.
How do you justify that? How do you justify charging people?
PERS is going bankrupt.
$20 a time to.
$20 a year.
$20 a year.
So basically it's.
So you're gonna have to pay to park, right? You're still gonna have to pay to park.
I mean, not always. Depends on
a
where
lot
you
of the
go.
time, right? If you're going to a desirable place, you're gonna have to pay to park.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you got to pay to park, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what? $5 a day usually,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
$7 a day.
Yep.
Now you got to pay $20 a year. Okay.
Per
person.
No,
right?
per craft.
Oh, per craft.
So if you got a douche canoe with 4 douches, that's one $20 fee.
Okay. All right.
But if you've got 4 people, 4 canoes, it's $80 a year.
Just to access the river. Yeah.
Just to do. It's non-motorized.
Yeah.
So the effect it has on the environment is
the environmental
next to
effect.
nil.
Right. So I can see like the invasive species permits, right, that you have to do in Oregon for motorized boats. I can understand why those are necessary, although they're a little strict, right?
They are, and I think you could easily do away with it because a lot of people in this area only go to the same the same waterway. Like everybody goes to Foster, Green Peter, which essentially is the same body of water, and that's it. Like they don't go to the coast.
Like maybe you could just fill out a thing for Foster Reservoir. Like this is where I'm going to be, and if I go anywhere else, then I need to go through something.
Then
yeah. No, I'm not opposed to that idea. I think that the government takes way too much money from the citizenry. I already pay a significant. I'm getting a little buzzed. I already pay a significant amount in taxes every year.
Yes.
And now I've got to pay for every public property access that I want to use. That seems ridiculous. But that's the way I am. I don't, that's the very right part of me where I'm like
fucking ridiculous.
Why are we paying for?
I think we need to mow here.
Okay, so I don't want to get shot by the FBI. You?
Well, that was one guy.
Yeah.
That was one guy who did a lot of shit wrong. Like I'm.
He did do a lot of shit wrong.
He did.
Did a lot of shit wrong.
He was white.
He was white. He was wearing a cowboy hat too.
Was he unarmed at the time?
I don't know if he was armed or unarmed. You know what? I think he might have had a gun on.
I think he. Well, I know that he had threatened the cops. I don't know that he had a gun on him when he got shot. I'd have to look into that. But I think he might have been an unarmed white guy.
It might have been a one-armed.
A white guy with only one arm. Waste. I've got like 3 on me usually.
Yeah. I usually only have 1.
3. 3 usually.
Me?
You got a right, a left, and a heater.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I got a knife if I need to.
Yeah.
If it comes down to it.
I mean, that was a joke.
Yeah, I know. I got
God, we joke about a lot of people dying. Or I do, and you just get suckered into it.
Sometimes I like it when a lot of people die.
But when do we say enough is enough? Oregon wasn't this way 25 years ago.
I don't know. Eugene's been pretty like that for a long time, but Eugene was kind of the hippie cousin of Portland for lots of years.
It was.
Now Portland has kind of become like the hippie, like the super hippie.
like the crazy uncle that's fucking batshit crazy.
The crazy uncle that tells you about all his acid trips and tells you why the this is all just a simulation.
Fucking government's out to get you.
Well, the government is out to get you.
The paranoid crazy uncle.
I am the paranoid crazy uncle, by the way.
But it hasn't always been like that. Like, Portland hasn't been this crazy. Fuck, dude, ever.
It's definitely getting ridiculous, and I don't know, man. I still say leave it up to Portland to figure their shit out, but I do think that the mayor has reached a point where he needs to step the fuck aside, because he's not getting anywhere.
Did you hear Kate Brown asking neighboring law enforcement for help?
I did.
Oh, can you guys come over and help?
No, so this was one of her biggest mistakes.
No, fuck you.
She didn't ask. That wasn't a request. She didn't call up the sheriffs and say, "Hey, I need you guys to pitch in and help a little bit and try to get this shit under control finally." She didn't do any of that. She wrote a fucking piece of paper down and that just assumed that they would be involved, and they all just said, "Fuck you."
Why would anybody send their deputies into that fucking grinder, man?
Yeah, no, it's a ridiculous thing. It's a ridiculous thing to ask.
There's no possible way they could defend themselves if push comes to shove. And so what are they there to do?
Nothing. Get bricks thrown.
Yeah.
Get
bricked.
Get. Yeah.
Fuck no. I wouldn't
either. I wouldn't either. And I'm on the side of the protesters in that I think there's a problem with police brutality in this country, and I do think that I looking at the numbers, I do think it's statistically skewed, and a lot more, statistically more black people, especially black men, are victims of police brutality and killed by police, right?
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that as a real problem. Okay? But how they're handling it, first of all, requesting after watching what's gone on in the last 3 or 4 months, 5 months, after watching what's going on and not realizing that police, what's the next thing? Yes, you need to hold police accountable, but the demands that they need to defund the police and they need to get rid of the police is a misnomer, because there's no alternative to it. Are they going to send? So first of all, if you consider the people who work for the state of Oregon in like the public services stuff, the people that work with like CSD and child support and all these people.
Mm-hmm.
Usually by a couple years in, they're like, fuck it, there's no real point, because it's a ridiculous bureaucracy. Nothing ever gets really done, right? Mm-hmm. And kids are still getting beat, kids are still getting neglected, kids are still getting fucking starved, and what are they gonna do? So they just give up. And this is who you want to send into a fucking hectic situation where people are crazy, angry, and they've got guns or knives or drugs, whatever. It doesn't make sense.
Dude, I saw an excellent meme, and obviously it was tongue-in-cheek. It's an internet meme.
Mm-hmm. But
yeah, it was basically Black Lives Matter has had like over $1 billion funneled through that organization. Yeah. And what have they done with the money? What can they point to and say, we achieved this? They haven't cleaned up a neighborhood. They haven't provided housing for anyone. They haven't provided education for kids in, that otherwise wouldn't have an education.
Or like worked with government and law enforcement to do anything.
No, they haven't done anything.
It's definitely not.
And it goes...
At this point in time, it hasn't been an effective movement, right? It's essentially a remake of the fucking the Occupy, right?
And
it's
probably the Rodney riots, and it's just
I think that some things changed in LA after the Rodney riots.
Militarization of the police.
Yeah, that definitely happened.
Is that what they wanted? Because that's what they got.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just it. When we were up there, and you already mentioned it tonight, there is no clear message. There's no solution in all the rant and the raging that's spewed out. There are no one with solutions. Like, we had an employee that worked for you when I started, and she would come to you and say, we should stock XYZ. And you would ask, well, why? Who's going to buy it? How much does it sell for? What's it cost? How do you want to merchandise it? Well, I don't know. I don't know. Like, well, you know what? Come to me with a proposal, not an idea.
Yeah. Well, so ideas are good. Yeah, you can come to that's a good idea. Why?
Okay.
Why do that?
Okay.
Why should we do that?
But I think you could easily just skip that fucking step altogether. Like, propose a plan.
Well, they have proposed a plan, but their plan doesn't make any sense, and that's not necessarily the people that we saw protesting, but the Black Lives Matter front has proposed some things. Let's. I'm gonna take a second to look this up. So,
well, then someone just needs to tell them, like, guys, this is ridiculous.
Nobody's sitting down at a fucking table right now.
What we propose is the system, the status quo. And then they come in and say, no, we propose defunding. Like, well, we're not doing that.
Well, that's why that's doing that. Okay, there. That should be better. Okay.
I just don't know how you get... They haven't seemed to want to budge from anarchy.
Oh, let's see here. Sweeping
and
set
not in
of
pure form.
Policy demands. Let's look at the...
Oh, this ought to be interesting.
Education, police divestment, housing, health and well-being, transportation, economic development, legislative process, and community safety.
With $1 billion, they couldn't achieve any of that in any neighborhood?
Well, they spent a lot of money on marketing.
Bought and paid.
Okay, so here let's look at police and carceral system divestments. State of Oregon. Ban the use of breathing restrictions. Ban chokeholds outright and the use of any respiratory restriction.
Okay, so
mandated duty to report and a duty to intervene. Seems reasonable. I think we've talked about that.
Okay, so let's start there.
Okay, let's start.
If you're gonna ban chokeholds,
okay,
then the citizenry needs to ban resisting arrest.
Well, there are ways to. So I've
arm
learned.
Bars?
I'm well aware of police defensive tactics. I've learned quite a bit of them, and almost none of them include chokeholds. That's not police. That's not shit in your training usually. So banning them is fine, but being able to get some fucking asshole who used to be a wrestler to not try to put a chokehold on someone is something else.
So I think there needs to be some give and take. Like, yeah, we won't choke a motherfucker if the person doesn't go fist every time we try to put cuffs on him.
You can't. That's not a fair.
Yes, it is, Tom.
So what you're saying is, if you resist arrest, I can choke you to death. Like if you got really crazy,
you put me in a chokehold.
I put you in a sleeper hold.
That's a chokehold. If I would have died,
how long were you in the chokehold, motherfucker?
It must have been 15 minutes. I want my 15 minutes of silence. Motherfucker, Matt will be here Monday or Wednesday. He could tell us all about it. You put me in a chokehold.
Matt was hammered drunk. Yeah, we'll talk about me putting you in a chokehold.
I forgot all about that.
I put you in a sleeper hold, and it was a pretty polite one, and all I did was guide you into the passenger seat of the car, set you down, and held you in there and told you to pull the fuck off.
I'm sure I was throwing haymakers, and I probably
but not
fucking
my.
deserved
It wasn't me. It wasn't. You weren't coming at me. You were fucking angry at the designated driver.
That's not a good person to piss off.
No, it isn't. As it turns out. Yeah, I just subdued you and put you in the car.
Yeah, the DD, he can end your night right now. Like, motherfuckers, car's going home. You're either in it or you're not.
Yes.
But still.
So yeah. Okay. I did.
It could be a give and a take. Like, we promise not to put
resisting arrest is already a chargeable offense, right?
Right.
It's already
so
considered
how do you
a
arrest someone that's resisting?
There are lots of other takedown tactics that you can do
9mm
without choking.
slugs.
I'm not saying that you have
arm bars. leg locks.
Tasers.
Yeah, they do fucking nothing.
Well,
Did you see that
up
motherfucker
the
in Wisconsin?
No, I didn't.
He had 2 tasers on him, and he still fucking casually walked to the car.
Well, and those are some of the
do we need to up the voltage on him?
Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea.
And then someone's going to get a heart attack and die.
Yeah,
and then what?
I don't know. Okay, let's go on to mandate a duty to report and a duty to intervene. Now, this is something that I can agree with as well.
These are basically talking about the spectator cops, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
First of all, police who use excessive force and or witness excessive force must report. Well, the first one is ridiculous. If you're using excessive force, why would you report it? Unless it was you were in fear of your own life and you put someone in a chokehold long enough to subdue them, and then you release them as soon as they were cuffed and subdued, right?
Right. I'm good with that.
Okay.
So body cam gets rid of that.
Right. You have that, right? You have that, and you also have people who are officers who are there. You know, this is one of the things that bothers me about these situations is police watching other officers do things that they know are wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
there's different reasons people do that.
Yeah, there
are. So, but again, body cameras completely eliminate that need altogether.
Certainly
so they should definitely
assuming there's some accountability within the law, right, for police who are abusing their power and using excessive force, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Next one: disclose disciplinary records to the public. Mm-hmm. So making public.
They should definitely be disclosed interagency.
This is one of those things that does become a little bit. It should not only be disclosed. There should be a fucking. For me, there should be.
Reprimands?
No, there should be a site or a collection of sites that kind of.
Like the sex offender sites, but for cops.
Like a registry, but maybe only police agencies can find. But it's all admissible in court, right? Any reprimands that have happened, any charges that have done, those should all be admissible in court.
Yes,
and they
show a pattern.
They should also prevent other agencies. If somebody's got 2 previous fucking excessive force reprimands in there. Those offices should look at that and go, that's probably not somebody that we want in here.
Right.
Okay? Or 3 strikes and you're out. Let's say that. That's what the
that
law
seems to be a gold standard in America.
It does seem to be. It's the whole American pastime baseball thing. Okay.
Yeah. No, I think that does need to go. Fuck. You make that a gray area and you leave it up in the air. Then some soft, sympathetic judge somewhere will let cops off with 4 more strikes.
So.
But
I think, if we get into the legal system,
but I think where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
If you've got
3 strikes on if you've got 3 major offenses on your fucking record, you don't get to work in police.
But let's say you're a cop and you're tasked in a very difficult neighborhood. It's not going to be difficult to get 3 complaints, especially if the population know. If there's. But I guess if everyone's wearing their body cameras like they're supposed to,
yes, that's right. Again, you're going back to a source of information, and the public. And so, don't get me wrong. I don't want cameras all over my house so the government can see what I can do. That's not what I'm talking about.
No.
But if you're a government agent, while you're working as a government agent, you should have some liability. And if a body camera prevents you from being, scrutinized, then or will prove that any scrutiny about your behavior is misguided, then that's a good thing.
Why wouldn't you want that as a
cop? Right, exactly.
If you're a clean cop, why wouldn't you want that? You turn it off when you're on break.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
when you take a shit.
Yeah, when you're in the stall.
Yeah.
But
when you're taking a piss or a shit. Turn off the body camera. We're good.
Yeah, right?
I don't need to. Turn the fucker back on as soon as you get out of there.
Yeah.
Right.
Although it wouldn't be a big deal because if you're not in the bathroom roughing people up, no one will even see the footage. If there's not a police report, an incident, then the footage will just drop off.
Okay. Next thing. I
Next
agree.
thing.
I think body cameras are an important thing. And
I think so.
I think
And
there should.
I think BLM could have bought body cameras for everyone.
That's probably true. Prohibit arbitration from lessening disciplinary action. According to them, arbitration has often been used as a tool to avoid public accountability and lessen disciplinary action for police officers. So it sounds like they've passed. It looks like maybe there's some of the stuff that's still going across the legislative branch. Oregon legislature. This is Oregon. Demilitarize the police. This is one that I absolutely agree with. I don't think using military stuff for non-military personnel is a good idea.
Do you think city cops should have M4s or shotguns in their cars?
What's an M4 again?
An AR.
Okay, an AR. I think they should be able to have whatever the citizenry of their community is able to have by law.
But nothing more.
No, I don't think
so. They should be able to have semi-automatic rifles in Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't disagree.
Yeah, that would be my. But I think that in that the government should no longer be pushing to remove ARs from the public hand.
Not unless they're, at the very least, they're willing to remove them from their personal bodyguards and the police.
I had an early bit. I don't know if you've heard my gun control bit, but early in that I was basically like, yes, okay, fine. I'm there with you. I'm all for disarming people, right? Except for the police, because they never do anything wrong with guns, right? Okay, yeah. I mean, and then I kind of went into some of that. It never happens. Police never shoot the wrong person. And military, we should definitely make sure that actually I started with our enemies, right? We should first start with our enemies. We've got to make sure that our enemies are disarmed, so we know that we're safe. And then the military, because the military never makes mistakes with guns. And finally, before I get disarmed, I think the police should get disarmed, because I mean,
because they fuck up with guns all the time.
Okay, so demilitarizing the police, yeah, absolutely. They're talking about tear gas, sound cannons, flashbangs.
No, that's not. If it wasn't for that shit, there'd be more dead protesters.
I think the use of less lethal stuff is not a bad idea.
Is that what they're arguing for? Is the less use of less lethal?
Well, so tear gas for someone like me could be a pretty big thing. It could be a problem. Pepper spray against any person. I disagree with this. I disagree with the parts of this. Tear gas is not a good thing, but like sound cannons, any kind of less than lethal type of thing, flashbang, pepper spray, all of these things are put there for a reason. I disagree with that one. Decriminalize fare evasion in public transportation.
What the fuck is that?
If you skip out on paying your bus fare or your max fare or anything like that.
So decriminalize that.
Yeah. So basically make public transportation free. How are you going to pay for it?
Well, it'll eventually either tax itself to oblivion, or it'll just go away quick. It'll either shut down overnight or tax itself into shutting down.
Well, it'll tax itself into prohibit use of fare evasion as a means for a warrant search. Fare evasion for removing it as a misdemeanor and funding public services. Okay. So they're saying that the funding that you take out of the police, you put to making sure people can get where they want to get. Okay, that's cool. Fare evasion as a means. Well, if you decriminalize that, the next one is prohibit use of fare evasion as a means for a warrant search.
So here's a thought, though.
So I don't think that fare evasion should be a warrant for search anyway.
How are you going to pay for police training and education if you're taking money away from already bankrupting departments?
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
So again, can they get sat down at the table Is
I
there
don't
is
know.
there a
Well,
responsible,
I'm looking
mature
at all
person?
this, and there are on a lot of these things. A lot of these things there are already legislative stuff in the works on. Not the fare evasion thing.
No knock warrants.
Well, no knock warrants aren't a thing in Oregon. That's in other states.
Oh.
I don't think that Oregon has no knock warrants.
Well, I know SWAT. Well, no, I think they have to.
You have to identify. You have to make a known presence that
and
you
then
are
like
the
2
police.
seconds later, you can bash the door in.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's okay. That's so you're notifying the occupant of the house that you're the police and you have a warrant, right? Police, we have a warrant, and you're going through the house with that until you meet with the homeowner. If it's one of those ones that you're coming in, hot and heavy, then you're going to have to be saying that as you go. There's no, breaking into someone's house and then after it's all said and done, giving them the fucking warrant. That's.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's a
bullshit.
violation of the Fourth Amendment. On the face, right? That is an absolute slap in the face of the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, no one ever fucking fights for the Fourth.
It's one of my most, in what we've talked about over the years, it's one of my most, my most valued ones, because that's, obviously the First and Second Amendment are, it's my home. Stay the fuck out of my home, or my car, or my pockets. That's my dick. You don't need to play with it. Just keep your fucking hands to yourself.
Pocket.
Well, that
I
one
wish
too.
they'd stay out of that one.
Remove sworn and armed officers from public university campuses. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea because there are stupid, crazy people who would use weapons to cause mayhem on a campus, and I think having armed officers on university campuses is a good thing. I think,
or allow concealed carry on campuses.
I think that should be allowed too. I honestly do.
Yeah,
I don't
do
think
too.
I don't think that I don't think if you've gone through educational stuff and learned the proper means to use it and what's legal and what's not legal and how to make sure that you're not shooting someone that you don't intend to shoot. If you've gone through all that stuff, you should be able to carry a gun where the fuck you want.
Mm-hmm.
Ban the receipt of militarized equipment. This is one that I agree with. Absolutely.
Hold on now. Ban
the receipt of militarized equipment. Ban local police departments from receiving military surplus equipment through the federal 1033 program.
Yeah, they've already talked about that. So now they're just repeating themselves.
But that's one that I agree with. I don't think. First of all, I don't think that the police need tanks. They don't need fucking M16s. They don't need
well, if we had them, if they were legal for us,
I'm okay with that too. Right? I think if the populace can have it, the police can have it. Right?
Right.
And vice versa.
That's essentially all they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they are people.
Yeah,
they're citizens first and foremost.
Yeah. They're there for the citizenry too. Right?
They are. So I think you're right. If they can have an M203, then so can we.
Which one's that one?
Oh, dude, machine guns, rocket launchers, things of that nature.
Again, I think if anybody should have them, the populace should have them. I know that's a short-sighted opinion, but I think if there's education and some accountability involved, then fuck it.
Think about how less efficient mass shooters would be with full autos.
Yeah, because they're just not.
They're not effective.
Okay, so
anyways,
reconsider personnel public records requests.
Yeah,
so
we covered that.
I think that's in line with what we're talking about. Yeah, disciplinary action exemption. I'm not opposed to, like, if you make a request on a police officer, if you make a public records request on a certain police officer as to what's gone on in their stuff, I mean, you're probably going to be doing that in some sort of a lawsuit. So I think that the rules of due process and the rules of discovery apply.
Yeah. Not the due process that that the Trump dossier got, though. It needs to be. It needs to be vetted.
Okay. Consider the laws that allow expunction without cost. Oh, so they're basically saying rather than having to go through the legal steps, like filling out the expunction paperwork and all that kind of stuff.
For expungement?
For expungement, yeah.
That it should just be automatic?
That it should be automatic after a certain period of years.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to that idea.
Oh, fuck no. It has saved me a bunch
It would have saved
money.
you quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Although I think you probably... Did you use the paperwork that we filled out, or you just had an attorney do your stuff, right?
I had it... So, why was that? I don't know. I did have an attorney do it.
Yeah.
Because it was going to be... There was other steps involved.
Mm-hmm.
And if I messed up anywhere,
it
was going to cost me. So I just had the attorney do it. And it was... I mean, of all the bonehead things I've done, that was the money I've best spent ever. Yeah. That was the best money I ever spent.
No, and it's worth it. I did it.
But it should be automatic.
I don't disagree
with that.
I'm not opposed to it either. I think that if there's been something on the what is the expunction? Is it 7 or 10 years?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
So if you, this is when I was going through it, which wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, a couple.
If
3,
you
4
had
years
one felony charge, 3 years.
Okay.
If you had one felony and any other charge, 10 years.
Okay.
So I had one felony and more than one misdemeanor, but it only needed one.
Yeah.
Then I had to wait 10 years.
Okay. So yeah, I
got an idea though.
I think that's a reasonable thing. I think that would cut down on fucking paperwork. It would free up
judges,
district attorneys and judges and all that kind of stuff if it just automatically fell off after 3 or 10 years or 7 years, whatever it is.
Yeah. So here's an idea.
Yeah.
People that they let out of prison. So let's say you're a convicted felon.
Okay.
And they let you out of prison.
Hmm?
I think at that point you should get your gun rights back. If you're safe enough to not be in prison, why are you not?
With that.
Why are you not safe enough to have a gun?
Well, so prison is not. If they were to restructure prisons to make them re-education or what's the rehabilitation. If they functioned more like those kind of centers, then maybe. But most prisoners come out of prison as much a criminal as they were before.
So keep them in.
Yeah, I don't want to do that either.
So
I'm okay with your idea.
Okay.
Your idea if you look at the prison system and go, okay, we're not going to just be remove people from society function anymore. We're going to educate. We're going to rehabilitate. We're going to try to make these people better people at the end. And if they can't prove that they're going to be better people by the end, then we fucking start over, right? I'm okay with that, but I don't think it should be private service. I don't think that should be a private industry in this company.
Is it easier to regulate private industry than government, though?
I don't know, but I don't think you should be imprisoning people for profit. I think that's
I don't think so either.
I think that is a recipe for abuse.
I think if you're safe enough to be out of prison, then you're safe enough to protect your home.
Maybe let's say out of prison through all of your parole stuff. If you've been an upstanding citizen and you get to that point, I'm not opposed to it. Or if you're eligible for expunction, I'm expungement.
Well, it should be I think you're right. It should be automatic. And then
so let's say this. I would be personally okay with a period of time. Let's say one person goes in for one violent crime, right? Because that's the only reason that I think a person should go to prison. Okay. Right? They go in for a violent crime, and they come out. Let's say it's assault. Let's say it's an assault. It's
bar
fight.
Okay.
They go into prison. They go through some anger management courses. They go through some stuff on de-escalation. Maybe they learn some things, go through some counseling, shit like that. They go to jail for what, 2-3 years?
So a bar fight, the guy's probably probably using alcohol as a reason.
Okay, so maybe there's some alcohol rehabilitation in there as well. Okay.
If you use that as part of your defense, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Because a lot of people do that. They're like, "Oh, I was drunk," and that's just automatically what they go to. Then fine, you must be an alcoholic. If you can't control yourself,
so no more booze.
So no more booze, and you're going to go through Alcoholics Anonymous while you're in prison.
Yep, and you're going to for a period of time.
Yeah. Fuck. Or Tom gets to put you in a sleeper hold if you're too drunk.
Tom is a drunk, but I'm a very functioning alcoholic. So, okay, the next one is the 48-hour rule. End the 48-hour rule. So I'm not familiar with this, but it says end 48-hour rule that delays questioning. So is this questioning of the police officers involved in something?
I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking this is.
Okay.
Because I don't think there's a 48-hour rule on criminals.
Fuck no, dude. I get a question. I got questioned instantly.
Okay, so I'm okay with that. I think the police should have some answers, but body cams would pretty much fix that, right?
Yeah, it would.
If you necessitated body cams, that would pretty much fix that.
Yeah.
Eliminate qualified immunity. I absolutely agree with this. Just because you're a police officer doesn't mean you're immune to the laws of the citizenry, right?
Yep.
They're not immune to civil processes. They're not immune to torts, to like legal torts where they're sued for money because they've done something wrong. Restitution, shit like that. Criminal.
So your average worker, let's say your average worker at a car dealership, is he possibly held liable for things that happen during the course of his work day? Or does the corporation assume pretty much all of that liability?
You're looking at something that's you're not comparing the same things.
Well, I'm just saying, a guy going to work at a car dealer and a guy going to work for the police. What would be reasonable?
If a guy tackled someone at the dealership, that guy is as likely to get sued as the dealership is, and I think that both should be liable. I think both should definitely be able to.
So I think it needs to be one or the other.
I disagree.
Why does the dealership need to be held liable then?
Well, so the reason, because there's more money in the dealership, right? Because they have more accountability, right? They have more money to be accountable. If you sue, let's say one of the sales guys, tackles someone on the sales lot, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Breaks their wrist when they fall down,
sure.
Right? Okay. So they're going to sue for a certain amount of money. That I think that,
how was that
there
the
should be
dealership's fault?
Well, because they hired him, so then they take responsibility for his actions. And this is a ridiculous idea, but
of course it is. So they take responsibility for his actions.
Right. Well, I think that there's a certain amount of liability for the dealership. I think this is a hard one to compare. But let's say a bouncer at a bar.
Okay.
Let's change it from someone working at a dealership to a bouncer at a bar.
Okay.
So a bouncer at a bar tackles someone to the ground, and so they're there in a security capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're also there because they want to be a bouncer. And I don't know how many bouncers you've known, but
they're basically cops without the badge.
Well, a lot of times they're there because they can't be cops, for one, and they've got fucking inferiority complexes.
Sure.
Right? So, yes, I think that the bar should be liable, but I think there should be room in the law for that person to be personally liable financially as well.
Okay, so
let's say a percentage.
What if the bar, as part of his hiring paperwork, they specifically say you are not to physically tackle somebody, and then he does it? How much liability does the bar have?
I think that would be up to a jury.
You think it'd be up to a jury?
I think that would be up to a jury, and as most tort laws, as most of those like high-ranking civil suits are, they're up to a jury, and I think that's okay to do it to a jury. But I think there should be a percentage that is personally responsible on the party who committed the act.
I don't know. So if the act is committed and it's not specified, against policy,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe the company should be 100% liable.
Okay, I see where you're going with that.
And if
So, like, if somebody dies from a choker hold, right?
The bouncer chokes somebody out,
The bouncer chokes someone out.
and
The family sues the bar for $10 million.
and they're like, "Oh no, we told him not to do that,
Yeah.
and we fired him."
Right. You fired him right afterward. Yeah, but you still have a responsibility to your patrons, right? That's why. You still have a responsibility to provide a safe place for your patrons. Now, if some guy came off of the street into your bar and choked somebody out, I don't think you'd be held responsible for that. I don't think you should be held responsible for that. Although it does happen.
So,
but if someone
where
in your
do you draw
employee,
that line?
well,
I don't know.
if someone's in your employee, then you take a certain responsibility for their actions, right?
Maybe you should take it all.
Well, but so
because
this is
it's your fault that person's working for you.
I don't disagree with that on its face, because the company should be responsible for the people that they hire.
Plus,
but
the person doesn't have any money.
Well,
a bouncer at a bar probably doesn't have enough money to fix your broken wrist or replace your
right. But you can have a judgment against them, which is what all civil law ends up with, right?
Yes.
It's a cash judgment, and if that guy has anything. So we're talking. So going back to the police thing, right? So like 10%. Let's say 10%, right? So Officer Bob chokes out Dale because Dale was drunk and being an asshole, but Dale had a fucking.
That all parties are white.
I'm obviously, because you and I are both white.
Dale and Bob.
Dale and Bob. So Dale gets choked out. He has a heart attack and dies, right?
Okay.
So Officer Bob works for county or city police, right?
Mm-hmm.
But his chokehold was against policy.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
He choked the guy out. He died. Right? He crushed it. Let's say he crushed his carotid artery. He didn't know how to fix it because he was under fucking qualified for doing what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Dale dies. Dale's family sues the police department for $2.5 million.
Okay.
Right? But as part of that, Officer Bob is responsible for $250,000.
Well, ex-Officer Bob.
Former Officer Bob should be at that point in time, right? Former Officer Bob is not only liable criminally, but also liable financially. Liable financially.
Should you tie the two together? If he's found innocent criminally, does that lessen his liability monetarily?
So I think it would be good if you could, but and I don't think that he should be less financially obligated if he's more criminally obligated. I think the two should go hand in hand. But the problem is tort and criminal law are two completely different things. They're handled in two completely different courts and two completely different settings.
Mm-hmm. So
it would be nice to. It would be nice to say, if so the civil crime over here says $2.5 million is what a jury of the local community says that the bar owes to the person, but 250 that 10% of that is Bob's responsibility because Bob fucked up. Right. And that could but that's not a criminal activity. Now you could do that as far as the tort law stuff goes, as part of the as part of the civil action. But the criminal action is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't necessarily tie the two together.
But if he's found innocent in a civil or in a criminal lawsuit, how can you then hold him guilty?
Happens all the time.
I know it does, but innocent. How do you bill someone for being innocent?
You don't. It's not innocent. It's financial responsibility. Tort law isn't guilty or innocent. It's what your financial liability is to the situation. Okay, and that's why they're held in two completely different court settings.
Maybe.
Okay.
And then someone might come along and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start an insurance pool for police officers as part of the police union.
Yeah.
And you can buy into it or not.
I think that.
And then completely neglect
your own responsibilities, your own liability in it. And I don't like that. That's
because
one of the things that I don't like about it.
99% of the police officers out there, 99.5, are not ever going to have an issue.
Yeah, that is a good cost plan for the insurance company. It's not good for the public.
It's not good for the public.
No.
But I mean, I see. That
No,
could
I
be
think
an
that
issue
should be. I think that should be personal
because I
responsibility.
just thought of it on the spot.
Yeah, no, it absolutely.
Someone else will probably, if a law like that is
Absolutely.
enacted, someone's going to be like, okay, well,
Well, that
we're just going to
the
insure
company-
against it.
the company may insure against it. It's going to up their premiums, whatever. But I think the personal, I think personal accountability is very important. You okay?
Yeah,
Oh,
your chair's
the
not.
chair fell apart. Sorry about that.
Fuck, no, I'm a fat ass.
It's okay. We need to find you a new chair for in here.
Anyways,
But no,
what
I-
other demands do they have? Because some of this
Okay.
is not unreasonable.
No, I think that
They don't
fair
convey
amount-
it well.
a fair amount of it is actually no. That's it. Eliminating qualified immunity. That is the end of. Oh wait a minute. Oh, I lied.
Liar.
This is specifically for Multnomah County. Defund $50 million from the Multnomah County Sheriff. No wonder they didn't want to help.
Yeah.
No, that was Washington and
It
Clackamas.
was a Washington.
Washington and Clackamas County didn't want to help. Divest from homeless outreach and program engagement. Homeless outreach and programs engagement is a team in the Multnomah County Sheriff's. Oh, okay. So they want you to. They don't want this social service going through. Okay, they don't want this social service going through the sheriff's office. They want it to go through a social service agency.
To grow the government.
Well, no, they want to take money from one pot and put it in another. They want to take this is where I was talking
And
about.
put it into an agency that already exists.
Right.
Okay.
Department of Human Services kind of thing.
Well, that's not ridiculous. I don't know that the sheriff's office
I tend to agree with you.
wants to
but
be bogged down with homeless.
I think that
finances.
I think if you have well-trained police officers who are compassionate and understanding of people in bad situations, they're as good as a social service agency, if not better, because they're out in the lines. I'm not saying that it's a bad idea to have a better social service program for homeless people.
So, I know we've both said it several times, but man, yeah, I think a lot of just hours and hours and hours of body cam footage could put an end to a lot of this.
I think it could. I think.
So do you think? Let's do this. So okay, let's assume that we've got cops, FBI agents, everyone that's boots on the ground, in enforcing laws. They're wearing body cams.
Sure.
Okay, let's assume that that's going, and there's a giant server farm somewhere. So all of this data is being saved all the time.
All going right up to the cloud and available for
So let's say
whoever has access.
Let's say you're standing there and you're recording, and Kyle just shot a guy, and he's running down the street and he shoots two more guys, and then you post that video to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Do you think those videos should go out into the public?
I think it would be a violation of their rights, their First Amendment rights, to say that they can't put those things out into public.
Right.
So what I would say is that using body cam footage and releasing it with whatever the jury decides, good policy. So I don't like what I don't like in what's going on in our YouTube society, in our everybody has a fucking camera or three on them society.
Yes.
Is that now the court of public opinion is somehow taking precedence over due process.
Right.
Right. And I don't think that should be the case. I don't agree. I don't want to make any determinations on Kyle either way. I want to be able to trust that legal system to hold him accountable. Whether I can or can't is a big question. I don't live in Minneapolis or in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I live in Albany, Oregon. I've heard some negative things about the Albany Police Department. I've heard some negative things about the Lynn County Sheriff's Department. I haven't necessarily experienced them. I mean, the Albany Police Department, I've dealt with a couple police officers who were a little arrogant and prickish. As far as the Lynn County Sheriff's Department, I've only had good things with them. But yeah, that's my concern with that. But I think due process is important. I think it's an important part of this country, and I think it needs to be respected.
I think that they handled my case, the Albany PD. I think they handled my case as well as they could have, given the fact that I fucking didn't tell them anything truthful for hours on end.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think they did. They did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I'm white and I have that privilege, I guess. But or maybe I was just cooperative. Like, I didn't fight. I didn't try to run. I didn't holler. I just fed them bullshit. And in reality, I should have just, you know, got a lawyer and not said anything.
Yeah, that's what you should have done.
That's hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to handle cops then, other than to just bullshit them.
Yeah.
But
the best thing one can do is just shut the fuck up and attorney up.
Yes, lawyer up.
Lawyer up as fast and as
Luckily,
possible.
dude, it was fucking bullshit. You know, it was not a huge.
Well, you did some stupid shit.
Yeah,
I know the story.
No.
You did some stupid shit.
I'm just saying, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, you know, it wasn't life ending.
No.
Going through the trouble and the repercussions of what I did. So it really didn't matter. It doesn't matter now looking back on it. You know, now that it's all said and done and over, like, even if I'd have lost my job at the time, I mean,
it wouldn't have been the end of the world.
Fuck no, I was making like $12.50 an hour.
But you were making that when most people were making what, $8 an hour, $7 an
No,
hour?
No, most people were making about that. I mean, most anybody in a job more than 5 years was making that.
Yeah, not skilled people. I'm talking about like minimum wage.
Minimum wage was probably $10 an hour at the time.
I think it was less than that. It's only been $10 an hour for like the last.
Really?
I don't know. I think it's only been about the last 6 years, 5 or 6 years.
Oh well, then so it might have been $8.75 or whatever. So it's not like I was doing phenomenal.
Yeah. But I mean, and fortunately for you, that didn't hinder your ability to get other jobs going forward. Whereas it does for some people.
It does. It does. So people need to just. I mean, people need to fucking shut the fuck up and lawyer up. Or not do stupid shit.
I think
like I did that to myself.
You did do that to yourself.
So don't do stupid shit, and then you don't have to.
You did some stupid shit. I did a lot of shit, and the only time I got caught was as a juvenile for something really, really stupid. And if I had even half a lawyer, if I had even half a fucking lawyer, I would have gotten away with it. I would not have gotten what I got, which was still a misdemeanor charge. Like I pled it down to a misdemeanor charge, but I just had like the world's worst public defender, and I was like at my arraignment he quoted Bob Dylan, and when that happened I was like, motherfucker, give me a plea bargain, hurry the fuck up, because I don't want to deal with this shit. I had like 80 hours of community service and like a year of probation. So it was really not bad. I mean, for all the shit I did, that was pretty minimal. But what I got busted for was so fucking stupid. So what I pled to was attempted tampering with a witness.
What'd you do? Like, hey, you didn't see that?
No, it was so much more benign than that. One of my buddies had gotten arrested, and I told somebody who told somebody else. I told somebody that somebody should do something, and they told that someone that they should do that, and that's what I got arrested for.
Holy shit,
yes,
dude!
Yes, and I felt pretty okay because it wasn't like anything that I was active about. Right? I was fucking high. I was methed out one night, and I was like, you know what? And someone should do this and that and then and fucking went through to that, and it ended up. So the person that she told had a bug on her phone because she was underage. I was 17. They were all like 15, 16, 17 years old, and but anyway, I ended up getting charged with this, and I had the world's worst public defender who quoted Bob Dylan, and I was like,
I'm ready to negotiate.
I'm open to something here. there.
Yeah.
Let's just and I thought 80 hours of community service and a year of probation was pretty reasonable, given what I was looking against, because they were trying to get me conspiracy to tamper with a witness and tampering with a witness and all this stuff. I don't
felony type stuff.
Felony stuff, and I think they would have played hell trying to get me for that.
Except for your.
But the police knew I was into so much more shit.
And they knew they gave you the dumbest motherfucker they could find.
Well, I don't know if they had any control over that, but I do remember. I do.
I'm sure not.
I do remember thinking, because when they interrogated me, it was like a fucking 3-hour interrogation, and I was pretty honest for the most part in my interrogation. They were like, "Well, we hear you're selling drugs." I'm like, "Nah, not really. I'm doing a bit. I mean, I was selling a little bit of drugs, but I was procuring for other people at that time at 17 years old. So I was like, I'm not really selling them. I'm doing a few. I've done meth like this many times. How do you know? Well, because I counted.
Yeah, it's been twice.
Well, no, it was like 12. But it was,
okay. You're like, yeah, we're not talking about 100 times.
I had literally been selling drugs for some time before that, but it was, do you do meth? Yeah, I've done it like 12 times. How can you be so sure? Well, I knew because I kept very good tabs on what I was doing, because I didn't want to, at
be
that time.
Druggie?
I didn't want to be a druggie, yeah. I kind of fell into it later, but at that time, at 17 years old, when I'd been fucking slinging drugs for a couple years, I wasn't really big into doing drugs until after that, actually. But anyway, I lost the page that we were using.
That's fine. I was just thinking, like, that's not crazy shit.
No, I mean, a lot of it's reasonable. I think you could. I think if you went to the table and you had some negotiation, you got a few of those things off of there. You were a little bit more explicit on some of the things. I think that's a good. It's a lot of reasonable shit, and looking at it, a lot of it has gone to legislature. So it's in process.
So why are we still burning down Portland?
I don't know.
And
because people don't really pay attention to what's going on.
I don't think most of those people care.
I hesitate to go that far, but it goes back to what the joke that I had about our friend, in that, they didn't want to argue with me because I probably had read more than they
yes.
had.
Yeah.
And I use the term friend lightly, but it goes back to that. I don't think people really pay that much attention to what's actually going on, and they just buy into the narrative that is being shoved down their throat. And let's be honest, whether you're on the right or on the left, the narrative is very much in your favor, right?
What do you mean by that?
Whether you're on the right or you're on the left, the mainstream media, whatever your point of view is, it's very much in your favor on those things, right? Portland's going to shit, hell in a handbasket. Oh, Portland's nothing but a bunch of peaceful protesters. It's not all of those things. It's somewhere in the middle.
No, Portland's pretty much going to hell in a handbasket.
We were there 2.5 weeks ago?
Yeah, and narrowly escaped a fairly wild night. Us, luckily, on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, fucking all hell broke loose again. So I was just about to concede.
We were there.
I know.
Right?
I was just about to concede.
So even the protest that happened on Wednesday night was meh. It wasn't far. It was like 50 blocks from where we were. Actually, we were probably closer to that when we went to the gas station. We were probably about 35 blocks from it. Actually, you remember the ambulance? That was probably the guy that fell out of the truck.
Okay. It probably was. Yeah. I was almost ready to concede, like, man, I don't know what the fuck Fox is doing, but they have got this all wrong. I was just about to say that, because it was nothing more than someone yelling with a loudspeaker.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that, and then the next night or two, fucking people are getting their heads kicked in.
Yeah, well, that was a few days later, wasn't it? And that was,
and his girlfriend, all he wanted to do was help a trans lady or feller.
Trans woman.
Trans
woman.
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
He just wanted to help her because she was being mugged.
Yeah. I don't know exactly. That's the narrative that I've gotten the most.
So
I don't
here's
know.
a
I don't
white
know what's
guy.
happened because after when I went on my sabbatical, I didn't pay any more
Of
attention
course
to
not.
it, and I don't know what's
You should,
developed.
if you
from
wanted
there.
a good vacation,
Oh, I did. I absolutely did.
yeah,
I didn't
you
look
were
at
better
Facebook.
unplugging.
I threw a couple of pictures of my adventure on Facebook, and
Yes.
I said, "Fuck this! I'm not looking at any of your bullshit." And I was really and am still compelled now to just not fucking look at a lot of that shit.
I don't look at a lot of it, which is why when we come and talk about stuff, I'm
Yeah.
like, I tend to like it. Dude, I'm busy.
Yeah.
At work, I am so fucking busy right
That's
now.
part of my problem right now. I don't have as much occupying my time, so I'm like, these motherfuckers. And
What
it
is
all
going on
starts
out
from
there?
base. It almost always starts from fucking Facebook.
Yeah.
It's,
Big
it, it fucking comes up on my news feed like the guy that got kicked in the head, right? So I have a lot of people on both sides of the political spectrum,
Yeah,
right?
you're as left as I have in my friends. No, that's
so
not true. But
you're not anywhere near the rightest person that I have. I have started eliminating people from my fucking friends group because I'm just like my cousin the other day called me a fucking pussy ass snowflake because I can't remember what it was, but I was
a snowflake?
yeah.
Like
So
I might call you. I don't know. Just I would not call you a snowflake. Like,
I'm
you
not
are
a
not
fucking
weak.
snowflake. I'm not a snowflake, and I'm not anybody who
Just melts down.
no. And
Have you ever needed a safe space?
no. This had something to do with
Maybe it's just your
it had
cousin
something to
giving
do
you a
with
bad time.
coronavirus, and I'm trying to look at my response because I sent him a bunch of I sent him a big ol' long thing. I'd done it on Facebook, but I did it after he blocked me or something.
Oh, he blocked you first.
I think that might have been the case, but
Damn, you got blocked, fool.
oh, here we go. So, oh yeah, because he called me a libtard and a snowflake and shit like that, and so this is my cousin Richard, and Richard,
Little Richard.
Little Richard, was a racist prick my entire time growing up, and he was a staunch racist prick.
Okay. So he's like Coeur d'Alene Richard.
Well, he was a white guy in Madras in the fucking 70s and 80s.
Okay.
He was very, very against Latinos and natives and yeah. So anyway, he moved to Alaska for a while. Anyway, so after this, I had kind of sent. Oh yeah, I run my fucking face. That was one of the things that he said. I just said I get tired of watching this false dichotomy, which I very much talk about a lot on Facebook, and maybe not on here, because I use the dichotomy between you and I think it's fun. But I watch ridiculous people on both sides of the false dichotomy make stupid mistakes every 4 to 8 years. It was something to do with I don't remember what he had said about me, but I copied my response to him. They just always do the same shit, in my point of view. Like it's every time something changes, everybody gets all up in arms, and it's just continually growing and becoming a bigger problem. But anyway, yeah, we're no longer friends on Facebook, which is fucking fine with me.
You know, there were a couple of candidates in 2016 that I would have liked just fine. Jeb Bush was not one of them.
Jeb Bush was fucking ridiculous.
What I liked about Trump is he fucking called out the media bias.
Right, and I thought that was good
He was
and relevant.
and yes, and he would not take slander from the left like laying down.
Well, he created his own brand of presidential slander narrative. He is the most ridiculous person who has ever been a statesman, right? Because he says ridiculous shit about people. He'll fucking Pocahontas. for fucking
Elizabeth
Elizabeth
Warren?
Warren, right?
Yeah.
He'll find these things and he'll just dig in on these ridiculous like.
What she did was ridiculous.
Funny. It's funny. Don't get me
sorry.
wrong. I'm no Elizabeth Warren fan, but it's not someone that I can responsibly follow. I could hang out with him in a bar and talk shit all day long, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know the whole time he's full of shit, but he's funny enough that I would probably be okay with that. But that doesn't mean that I want him to be my leader, right?
Okay.
That's my point of view with him.
I was all about. Before I was Trump.
Okay.
I was all about Dr. Ben.
Oh, Ben Carson. Ben Carson, yeah.
If those two non-politicians weren't running, I would have liked a Rand Paul.
It was more a libertarian.
A Cruz.
Ted Cruz is really fucking. He's not strong enough.
That was it.
He's the fucking Nancy Pelosi of the fucking right. He talks a big game, but all he is a sniveling little bitch. That's my point of view on Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz.
I like Rand Paul. I mean, not enough necessarily to like try to promote him necessarily.
So Rand Paul versus Hillary.
I probably would have went for Rand Paul.
You would have voted for him?
I probably would have, so. But I think I would have done more research. I don't get all researchy in the first, in the primaries.
No, it became abundantly clear who was going to be the front runner.
It did, and that
away.
So, and that bothered me too. So one of the things that I liked about watching the Trump election, the initial election, was that he really, like, the Republicans didn't like him just as much as the Democrats, and that's a good thing for me, right?
Right, I liked that about it.
And I didn't like him as a person. I could tell he's full of shit because I deal with people. I historically have dealt with people
dude,
who are full of shit.
he was running to be a politician, of course.
Well, he's full of shit in general, right? Just in general. Yeah, he may be a wealthy guy. I don't think he's nearly as rich as he says he is. I don't think he is, and I think that's why he hides his tax returns. I mean, I know that's not that important, but it's an ego thing for him, right? So when I look at Donald Trump, I see somebody who is completely driven by his id and his ego, and he has no real compassion or superego or anything that would bring him back to reality. So he doesn't have a good sense of reality, and that bothers me, right?
I wonder what you mean by that.
So I don't. I've explored, like I've explored parts of my brain that can understand that type of person, and it's a scary part of my brain because that is a very relentless and self-serving person. So when I see that person reflected, I don't want that person to be my leader, right? So and that's what I look at when I'm looking at a president. I look at my leader. I look at someone that I need to look at and go, okay, I respect you for who you are and for the choices you're going to make for the next 4 to 8 years, and then I'm happy that somebody else will be in there, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I look at elections, and I look at presidents and.
So how has this been self-serving? He puts in long hours for no pay.
He doesn't put in that long hours. The guy spends more time golfing than any of his predecessors, right? He spent the whole last 4 years of Obama's fucking presidency ridiculing him for golfing, and he spent more time in his first 4 years on the golf course than Obama spent in 8. Okay? That's bullshit. That's a liar bullshit fucking thing, right?
Okay. Luckily, it's not an important.
It's not, but it definitely says that if he's spending that much time on the golf course, how much time is he really spending working?
Maybe he's a phenomenal delegator. I don't know.
Well, how can you be a phenomenal delegator when you have to rotate out? When you have the turnover rate of Donald Trump. Like, would you want to work for Donald Trump's company if he turned over people as fast as he does now?
No.
Exactly.
It would be like
then why do you want to be a citizen in the nation that he's running?
Okay.
You wouldn't want to work for the guy. Why do you want him to lead you?
Well, there's lots of leaders that I think could be good leaders that I don't work for or wouldn't want to.
Okay. Name one.
Uh, well, how do you think Carly Fiorina would have been? I wouldn't have wanted to work for her.
I wouldn't want to work for her either.
But I think she could have done okay.
I don't think she could have done that good.
No?
No, she was too full of shit to function well. And she would have done what Donald Trump has done, which is he is buried himself in his own bullshit. In my opinion.
I think
right? And don't get me wrong, like 6 months ago, a year ago, I was starting to like go, okay, well, it's not so bad, right? Shit hasn't gone that bad. He's doing some okay shit. Right? I don't agree with the border wall. I thought it was really funny when somebody used a fucking battery operated Sawzall to cut through the fucking border wall. I thought that was hilarious because it was such an arbitrary, like, bullshit stance to me. I'm not saying that I'm advocating for fucking open borders, but still, it was an arbitrary expense that he wanted the American public to foot the bill for, and Mexico was going to pay for it, right? Again, more bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say reimburse. He said pay for. I'm going to build.
So he didn't want the American people to pay for it.
Huh?
You just said he wanted the American people to pay for it.
No, he said he's going to build a border wall and he's going to get Mexico to pay for it.
That is what he said.
Right? I'm pretty sure that's the quote verbatim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think that's what you just said.
I'm not mincing words. I'm not paraphrasing. That's what he said. We're gonna build a border wall and Mexico's gonna pay for it.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's not how it went, right? It was a fight with Congress to get America to pay for this border wall. But by the time it got to that point, it was like, well, Mexico's not gonna pay for it, so somebody's got to build it, right? Which is bullshit. That's just adding bullshit to bullshit. He knew Mexico wasn't gonna pay for it. How were they?
Okay, you're right. We should eliminate all campaign promises.
I think that if someone has a platform, they need to make it a reasonable platform, right? And don't fucking lie about it in the process, right? One of the things that I can respect about Obama, while I didn't necessarily like him as a president, one of the things that I can respect about him is he said that one of his main purposes was, as a president, was to pass universal health care. And through a political system that was against him for most of it, he did. I don't like it. I think it's a terrible system. I was against that as a platform for him. But he didn't, the biggest lie he said was it's not going to be a tax. When it actually turned out to be a tax, because that's the only thing a president can actually control, right? Certain budgetary aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So, do I blame Donald Trump for being full of shit? No, but I know he's full of shit, and I can't follow him. Like, I can't look at him and go, hey, you're a good leader. You're a ridiculous guy. Like fucking George W. Bush. George W. Bush was a ridiculous guy. Like, he was way smarter than anybody gave him credit. And honestly, the coke probably helped. But he made terrible choices. He surrounded himself with people who convinced him to make terrible choices. One thing that I can at least appreciate about George W. was that he realized that he wasn't smart enough or well versed enough to make those decisions. So he brought in a lot of people like fucking Dick Cheney, who was a psycho, to help him make decisions, and he trusted those people. He didn't fucking turn them over as soon as they got tired of his bullshit, right?
Maybe he should have, and we wouldn't have ended up with the psycho Dick Cheney so long.
Yeah. Well, he wouldn't have ran if it weren't for Dick Cheney. I don't know if you know that.
That's fine.
I've gone through a bunch of stuff.
And maybe that's what Trump is doing. He's getting rid of people that are steering him wrong in the advice they give him. He's gotten the praise of the mayor of New York. He's looking
more and more like a dictator. He's looking more and more like a fucking Vladimir Putin or a fucking.
I don't see him grabbing up citizens' rights. I don't see him doing that.
I don't see him doing it yet, but I can see it being. I can see it being the outcome.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I guess time will tell.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
I'm sure you are.
Well,
Time will tell.
I'm wrong sometimes.
I think we're witnessing it. I don't see him just gobbling up civilian rights.
I don't see it happening yet, but I definitely, you know,
do you think he'll leave office if he's voted out?
I really worry that he won't. I really,
so I'm sure he'll want to recount.
An egomaniac. He is pure id.
Okay, so I'm sure he'll want to recount.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
So the reason that I say this, the reason that I say that I fear he might not, is because he's not dumb. Okay, don't mistake what I say for saying that Donald Trump is dumb. Donald Trump is a smart guy. He's made a lot of really good decisions. He knows how to play a crowd. He knows how to spin things. He knows how to lie to your face and then tell you 5 minutes later he didn't say what he just said to you. That's a scary individual for me. So what worries me about this is all of the propaganda that he's putting out right now about mail-in ballots and how negative they, you know, how much they can mislead and how bad they can be. That is someone who is setting the stage, because he's very much a stage setter, right?
Sure.
That is someone who's setting the stage for denying the election, whatever
that
it is.
has been being set for elections now. I mean, we've talked about illegals voting, dead people voting. We've been talking about this shit since the first Bush.
Right, but how do mail-in ballots in a state where mail-in ballots are pretty much the go-to? How do mail-in ballots differ from people going into a makeshift fucking room with a ballot?
I'm not saying that that's the answer. I think that you need to display a sanctioned state ID. So, like what Oregon's going to be required to get on airplanes because we've given too many driver's licenses to illegals. Like, you need to prove you're a citizen before you vote. And if you're too old, then
I'm
call
okay
a
with
cab.
that. I'm okay with that. But why do we have to do it in person?
Because the DMV has not done a good job, and states have not done a good job of regulating who signs up to vote. You know, who registers to vote.
Well,
we haven't policed that system at all.
Yeah.
So any ground, I mean, and again, this is pre-Donald Trump. This stage has been being set forever ago.
Well, I think there's probably been a fair amount of voter fraud anyway. But
of course,
is there really enough to sway an election? Well, in a country with 350 million people, 360 million people.
How many of voting age?
At least 200.
200 million.
Okay. But only half of them actually vote, right?
Right.
Okay.
Which means 100 million people. Well, 50,000 voters in the exact right counties could mean the difference. How close was Florida?
I don't remember.
I mean, it was pretty close.
I think that there is a way to make this more efficient than having a fucking 200-year-old system.
There is.
I absolutely think that there is.
And I think that every politician is going to wheel that card out when they lose, and then put it away when they win.
Well, yeah, it's.
So why do we hold Trump to a different standard?
Because I think he'll actually take action. I think
Maybe
he's.
it's
I think.
time.
I think he's setting up. I think he's setting up a narrative in which he takes action, and I do that from I think about that from a psychological standpoint,
Okay.
and watching him from a psychological standpoint.
We've done that to ourselves by allowing this system that we've known corrupt to go on for so long, It was only a matter of time before an egotistical maniac got in there, and
I'm not saying that this isn't. So I've always maintained that Donald Trump isn't necessarily the problem. Donald Trump is a symptom of a much bigger underlying societal problem, right? I think Donald Trump is a ridiculous person, like I said, and I think he would be a fun person to hang out with. He's not someone that I can follow.
I don't think he's evil.
He's selfish. He's self-indulgent. He is everything that's wrong with the United States. He is arrogant. He's manipulative. He's full of shit. Those are all very, very North American qualities, very United States qualities. And I'm just saying that he's a product of it. The reason that he's in there at all is because of the way that we are as a society. But that doesn't mean that he can't create some negative fucking problems. And I think the way that he's handling the coronavirus, the misinformation that he's playing with, and you know, and it's, I mean, if you watch the states that follow him,
could you imagine how tough it would be for Donald Trump to stay in office if he loses, if we had secured voting and secured all of these other issues leading up to it? If we knew 100%, like, this is the count, you're out. If we could 100% say that.
So you want to do away with the Electoral College?
No.
You just want to put it all on the voter?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't say abolish the Electoral College. I said lock down voting so that there's no fraudulent voting.
Okay.
So there's no dead people voting. There's no illegals voting. If we had fixed this, but like you said, if we had fixed this before,
I'm not arguing that we shouldn't fix it.
How much harder would it be? How much harder would it be for him to stay if we knew that the votes were counted and counted properly?
Okay.
And we could trust that. Right, left, center, we could trust that. It would be impossible for him to stay. But no matter
how,
the
popular vote doesn't dictate the election, right?
No, the popular vote doesn't. I didn't mention that. I just said if we could count votes properly,
okay,
and securely,
yes,
and then dole out the electoral votes appropriately,
okay,
and we knew that there was no fraudulent voting
according to the votes.
According
to the votes of the people. Okay.
Yeah. How tough would it be for him to stay?
I'm not at all saying that that's a bad thing.
So these are all problems that Obama knew about and could have fixed. That Bush knew about and could have fixed.
What's the process to fix it?
Well, we recall state IDs to illegals. We get them off of the voter registration list.
So let's go back to something that we talked about earlier, as far as the insurance thing, the bicycle insurance.
Okay.
Okay. What's the benefit of an illegal immigrant, an undocumented immigrant, having a driver's license? They can buy insurance, right?
You don't have to have a license to buy insurance.
You should though. I mean, without a license,
you don't even have to have a license to buy a car.
No, you don't have to have a license to buy a car.
You don't have to have an endorsement to buy a motorcycle?
No, you don't. But you have to have insurance to drive one, and generally to drive one, you have to have a driver's license. So if you don't have one, why have the other? Right?
It's to save liability.
Yeah, but you're not liable. You're an illegal. What are they going to do to you? Send you back to Mexico? That's the least liable person that you can fucking have on the road.
Sure.
Right? So I don't disagree with with people who are here illegally having driver's license, because at least there's a fucking a trail of breadcrumbs to follow.
Okay.
So
okay,
I'm debunking your point of view on that.
Well, then again, let's kick them off of the voter registration and make sure they're not voting.
Well, how many illegal immigrants are allowed to vote in this country? Because when you sign up for a driver's license
and you provide a fraudulent Social Security number?
No, that's a whole different issue.
Okay.
And that was quelled in this state several years ago. Unless you're a pretty professional ID thief, you're not gonna walk into the DMV and get a driver's license with somebody else's Social Security number. It's just not gonna happen. At least 10 or 12 years.
Well, no, you don't. Why would you? You don't need it.
What's that?
You don't need
No,
a
you
fake.
don't.
You don't
You
need a
don't.
fake social security card.
But you do need a social security card number to sign up to register to vote, right?
No,
It's been a
no.
long
It's
time
been
since-
it's been proven that it's automatic.
okay.
When you
so-
register or when you get a driver's license, you're registered to vote. Well, would you at least agree that there are illegal immigrants voting?
I don't know. Like
So you're thinking there's none.
Let's see. Pew Research Center.
If you say anything that I disagree with, I'm going to claim that it's left-leaning source.
I'm trying to find something that says indicatively one way or the other, and the only thing I see saying anything specific is Fox News making broad claims, and this is Pew Research Center. I don't know what Pew Research Center is. This is an interesting piece of information. This was March 3rd, 2020, from the Pew Research Center. About 1 in 10 people eligible to vote in this year's U.S. election are immigrants. So 10% of the U.S. population is immigrants. Mm-hmm. These are naturalized citizens, 23 million. And most of them live in 5 states. California, New York, Texas, New Jersey. Wait a minute. California, New York, Florida, Texas, and New Jersey. There you go. So you've got, what, 2 left-leaning states and 3 left-leaning states and 2 right-leaning states?
Florida's almost split.
Well, Texas is getting closer.
Texas is almost split. It's very purple now.
Yeah. Okay, so immigrants make up 21%, or I'm sorry, about 10% of the voting populace in New York. Those are naturalized citizens. Now,
here's the deal. If there's one illegal or one dead person voting, then the system's corrupt, because those people don't have a right to vote.
Well, I'm not saying that they don't have a right to vote, but are they really making a decision? Are they affecting the bottom line?
As these states, we barely had someone win the electoral and win against someone who won the popular. Like, this is getting really split down the middle.
Well, it's been that way for a long time.
This was one of the closest races that I've seen in ever.
Well,
as far as the raw numbers,
I want to say that.
So 50,000, like I said, 50,000 people in the right county voting the same way could change a state.
Right.
And one state is maybe all you need.
That could be. But so you're suggesting that the left is using this to their advantage, even though they already have the population.
Trump might use it to his advantage.
Okay, I'm not saying that that's not possible. I'm saying that is it a big enough
corrupt
problem? So I don't have any real information here. I have one sort, like, everything here is anecdotal sources, and I'm gonna put I don't have any real studies that I can find on it, like of how much that is. So let's see here.
No, we don't know. That's the point.
Voter fraud.
It almost doesn't even matter, Tom. I mean, let's say if are you willing to accept 20,000 illegal votes? Fraudulent votes?
So this is from this year. Actually, this is from today. 19 people charged with voter fraud in North Carolina over the 2016 votes. 19 people in North Carolina face federal charges of voter fraud over accusations that they voted in 2016 despite not being citizens. So it does sound like there's a remedy for it.
All I'm saying is, maybe Trump's not. I don't believe Trump's the dictator, waiting to look. Looking for something.
He's not someone who wants to lose. So I don't think he's necessarily a dictator because I've watched him. He'll go with certain flows, like the people that he relates with. He'll go with those flows. That's why he gets along with Putin, and and the right is so keen to him, even though he's not he's historically not been a right person, right?
No, he's had to play ball in New York,
but he doesn't like to lose. That's the concern that I have, and anybody who doesn't like to lose, and whom I perceive as someone who might do drastic things to not lose,
like some dictator type shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I'm not saying he's a dictator per se, but I'm saying that he's inclined. He at least seems somehow psychologically inclined to do some dictator type shit.
Okay.
And that's scary.
Well, fuck, dude. Luckily, I don't think the Marine Corps will stand for that shit.
I hope not.
Fuck, dude. I've known a couple Marines.
I hope not.
So
there are a lot of ridiculous people who love Donald Trump. That's
the military in great numbers,
right.
but they only go. I mean, the military only goes along for so long. Yeah. I mean, if he starts doing dictator type shit, I'm sure there's some defection.
I think with the Portland stuff, there was a lot of military that were objective toward that. I'm sorry, not objected to that.
Mm-hmm.
And things that were going on in other cities where like the National Guard was pulled into.
If he had sent,
and I'm not necessarily blaming him for all that.
If he had sent troops and they were just marching down, stomping people, shoving guns in their faces. I mean, I don't know of one federal troop that shot somebody or shot at somebody. In Portland?
I think they were all using like the capstun pepper spray.
That doesn't sound like a dictator takeover to me.
But that's again, I mean, going back to that.
It's like dictator type ish shit, kinda maybe.
Yeah. Dictator type of shit is not good stuff. I mean,
it doesn't even sound like that to me.
Right,
I'm just trying to put it in your words.
It's also testing the waters for dictator type shit. How much can I control? How much power can I get? And you can't deny that Trump is a power hungry motherfucker.
Oh, I think all presidents are.
Well,
I can't think of a president. I can't think of a president that got power for some sort of emergency and then gave it up after the emergency was quelled.
I absolutely agree, and I terribly I disagree with that behavior.
I do too.
Yes,
I'm just not willing to point Trump and be like, you are the only one that does this.
I said I have fear. No, absolutely not. I've absolutely spoken out against fucking George W. Bush and his use of his fucking Patriot Act and all that bullshit.
Yes.
I don't think that should have ever been allowed in a free country.
Man, I could have got on board with Obama if he would have came into power and said, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is this in
Same for me with Trump. If Trump would have come in and said, hey, you know what? This doesn't fit the foundation of this country the way that I see it. I would have gone from not being a terrible Trump supporter, which I wasn't 4 years ago, right? I was like, nah, I'm not. I'd have been like, wait a minute, maybe this guy is a little bit more like me than I believe, right?
Right.
No, he didn't do that. He didn't abolish the Patriot Act. He hasn't forgiven whistleblowers. He hasn't
No,
done
that would have been awesome.
Right, yeah. All of those things would have definitely gotten me more on his side.
Get Snowden back and put him on the payroll again.
Yeah. Let Chelsea Manning out of fucking jail. I think she's still in there.
Yeah, you told me about her.
Yeah.
Get Julian. Get him back.
Yeah, Julian Assange.
Put him on the payrolls. Like, dig up some of these criminal emails and these blackberries that were smashed. Like, get him taping.
Blackberries.
Get him taping documents that have been shredded.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So those are things that I would have looked at and gone, okay, hey, wait a minute, maybe this guy is my kind of president. Okay?
I bet those
but
three.
But he didn't do any of those things.
I bet those three could tell us who killed Epstein.
Get them all together.
I don't know. I think that we're leaving the door open by not closing the umbrella on a lot of these issues, and allowing this voter fraud to go on. We're leaving the door open for someone that's in power that gets voted out to say
I'm not arguing
that's
that
not a legitimate vote.
Addressed.
So I'm not listening to it.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's in the left's interest.
It sounds like 16 people got arrested, right?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know a statistic on it. If you bring a statistic to me next time and we can look down at that
I'm not going
okay,
to.
This is a real number.
If you don't believe there's at least 17 people that are
know.
guilty of voting fraudulently, if you don't believe that, then there's just no convincing you.
No, that's not true. But having real information rather than propaganda, right?
Well,
because that's what I see that shit as, is a bunch of propaganda. It's the same thing that fucking that Kim Jong-un does in North Korea. Well, he did. I think he's almost dead, right?
I think so.
I think his sister's going to be taken over. Anyway, that's the kind of bullshit that they promote, okay? To gain more power and gain more influence and gain more of those things. That's why I look at it and go, okay, let's get some real numbers here. Yeah, fine. If you believe there's voter fraud, why didn't you start fucking 4 years ago? Why didn't you have this flushed out Donald Trump? Why didn't you have this figured out instead of waiting until it's time to get re-fucking elected and start calling voter fraud as a problem? That's bullshit. That's propaganda. That's not fixing the problem. That's making a fucking reason for you to do some stupid shit.
I agree.
That's where I'm coming from.
I agree. Maybe I need to be a 2-issue voter. I've simplified my life as much as maybe too much.
I would say freedom. I'm a 1-issue voter. Freedom.
Freedom.
And honestly, none of the people that are up there are making me feel any more free. And honestly, I'm a fucking objective person. I can tell what kind of a person Donald Trump is by the way that I've seen him behave historically. I've been aware of him for at least 30 years, right?
Okay, yeah.
And my great-grandmother, who was a staunch Democrat, thought Donald Trump 30 years ago would have made a great president, right?
Right.
Fast forward 30 years, now he's a fucking Republican president, and he's not really a Republican, but he's kind of one. And
he's got an R at the end of his name. And that's it.
That's it.
I mean, well, yeah. Ish.
But
he's been kind of okay, neutral on a lot of Republican
if he had
issues.
gone in there and been so much different than what I perceived him as being, I might be voting for him this time around. And honestly, he didn't do too bad. Like, he was doing okay right up until this year, and this year is just not done well for Donald Trump or anybody, by the way.
I gotta say, if Donald Trump is getting the approval of a Democrat mayor from New York in his handling of Corona, he must be handling it. Because they would never give him props if they didn't have to. If they didn't absolutely have to. You think the mayor of New York would be doing that?
I think that there are certain people in politics who have realized the best way to deal with Donald Trump is to stroke his ego. And that's a scary thing for me too, right? I think that the first people to... So
they've given up on Biden.
Well,
they're like, we have to appease Trump because he's going to be there for another 4, so let's stroke his ego.
That very well may be. But I absolutely... Yeah, I'm more concerned now than I was 4 years ago. Right, going forward, like we're going to have a more ridiculous Donald Trump or a fucking ridiculous Biden, and to me they reek of the same bullshit, and I'm fucking unhappy about it. I really am.
Well, maybe this will be a wake up call for the left, and if Donald Trump loses the election and refuses to go because of potential voter fraud, maybe that'll be a wake-up call for them, and they'll think, next time we don't want that to happen.
Do you think maybe if the left votes, or if Biden doesn't get voted in, do you think maybe the left will stop their bullshit? Do you think the DNC will stop their bullshit?
No.
They're stacking the deck for the guy or girl that they want to fucking move forward rather than looking at what the public really wants.
Right.
Do you think we'll ever get fucking campaign finance reform?
No.
Then I'm ready for it to fucking burn. I'm ready for it all to burn.
There you go. I think that is probably the ultimate reset.
We're not gonna get term limits. We're not gonna get campaign finance reform. We just gotta burn it down. Start over.
I don't think we're gonna get voter fraud reform.
No, we're probably not gonna get that.
I don't think we're gonna get. Solid borders. They're pretty porous.
Well,
until we start burning the country down.
Well, yeah, you got to make a country that nobody wants to come to.
or are too afraid to walk into. Yeah, exactly. I would go there, but...
We got to be that dive biker bar that nobody... Like, you walk up to, you see all the bikes out front, you hear the fucking... The glass breaking inside. Yep. And you're like, yeah, I think I'll stay sober tonight.
Yep, I'm going to head on home. Yeah. Speaking of...
Yeah.
I'm going to head on home.
Yeah, you get the fuck out of here.
It's my birthday.
Thank you guys very much. Oh, yeah, happy birthday again to you.
The wife probably has nothing planned. It's pretty late.
No, that's too bad. Will she at least give you a hand job?
An old-fashioned?
An old-fashioned.
Oh, man.
Oh.
We'll see.
You can send me your number. I can, No, that would not be a good idea.
You are not allowed to talk to my wife.
Allowed to talk to her? That sounds like a terrible thing.
Hold on. That is a terrible thing. But you're not allowed to talk to my wife about weed at all. Period. End of story.
No more weed talk.
Never again.
All right. Thank you guys, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.